thank you everybody for coming for a conversation that is kind of a mutual event between the two Serbian podcasts, Active Measures and Osmatračnica, about anti-systemic media or journalism on internet, but not exclusively on internet, because it's in anti-systemic journalism and possibilities of it and the troubles in general, because it's kind of not possible to talk only on internet without talking about the other side. And so just a short introduction. Let's start with the best of us. Živanka Moris, investigative journalist from Macedonia, independent investigative journalist from Macedonia, and Kit Klarenberg of Grey Zone fame, pretpostavljam. I think
notoriety might be more accurate, but thank you.
It's the same thing as
Grey Zone journalist, also investigative journalist from all around, from the academic side,
political asylum seeker, and all this other stuff. But I think it's kind of apropos that we're meeting today, because in the past 2 weeks in the UK, we have had Richie Medhurst, who's a very popular independent journalist, get arrested coming off a plane in Heathrow, and it wasn't like when I got detained last May, and where they actually let me go. He's facing potentially very serious charges under the Terrorism Act for reporting on Gaza, and then a few days later, Sarah Wilkinson, who is a very prominent independent journalist covering Palestine, got her door kicked in at dawn by 16 balaclavaed counter-terror police, and is now precluded from using a telephone or the internet or a computer, and faces going to jail if she does. I think the fact that they would go after someone who has never been featured in the mainstream and largely exists as a kind of online journalist, I think that speaks to the fact that what we are doing is actually a lot more impactful and a lot more dangerous than we often consider. It's quite... Sorry.
Do we talk about just to finish with
the
introduction?
Sorry.
So from the Osmatračnica side, Ratibor Trivunac, a long-time political organizer from Serbia, and myself, I'm also from Osmatračnice, Ivan Zlatić, presently mostly an organizer, but also used to be a journalist myself. So just first thoughts on the issue, and then we'll just talk. So
before I was so rudely interrupted. I think that it speaks to the fact that that we're a lot more impactful and indeed a lot more dangerous than we often consider. That's quite frightening, obviously, from the perspective of facing prosecution or just outright cancellation and censorship from the platforms we use. But I think it's also a cause for optimism. That the major Western states will take such an interest in what we specifically are doing. So the obvious intent of targeting independent journalists in this way is to produce a chilling effect. So people are deterred from doing the same. I would like to think that it serves a kind of motivational purpose, because they can't jail us all.
I think also lots of things to be more. Živanka. So
I could speak. I could speak for Macedonia, and I could say the same thing. You can't be independent because you speak the truth. So you're being censored, and whatever I post, whatever I do, it's never get the attention. But then that actually means that it gets the attention at the same time. It's ironic, but it's the truth. So everything what I post is gonna, after 1-2 hours, is getting taken down by the Meta. We have a news agency in Macedonia who censors all these kind of stuff that I write about Palestine. Like when I was living in Germany, I was part of the Telegram channels, which I was getting the news of, Russian and Ukrainian war, and I started posting because people were just like they were seeing the one side of all this, obviously what America and EU wants us to see at the time, but everything was taken down. So, enough is enough. So I'm hoping that we can raise the awareness. There is one a saying that I keep making it myself, and it's like a personal mantra. So it's like, if one journalist with courage is a revolution, imagine if we are in this room, a few of us, what can happen. So like Kit says, I hope not all of us will get jailed, and and so obviously we can continue to talk, but everybody heard about Džulijana Asanža also, and see what cost he's freed and what torture he had, and his family and wife, and so it's bad, but we are hoping that bad we can turn it in our own good and in our positivity, so we can raise awareness to people who actually want to see both sides of the stories and the truth, actually, because whatever else is posted is not the truth, what is actually happening. So yeah.
All of you, including Ivan, are coming from the journalist background, so I guess your perspective is somehow informed by that point. I'm coming more from the political background, and I was thinking about when you were talking about your experiences with the Meta taking down the things, and of course some of the people you mentioned who were arrested and so on and so on. I'm afraid the situation is just going to get worse. I think we are now in a very good situation. What you said is totally true. There is some danger in what we are doing for the system, but hopefully it will rise. But I'm afraid, and this is because I'm coming from the political perspective, which says, okay, if you want to be an independent journalist, for example, we have to think about the material basis of our independence. What are the material foundations on which we are basing our independence? Before, you could find some media that was open, like mainstream media or newspapers and things like that would open a little bit of space for somebody to bring in a critical word or something like that. And then internet came, and this gave us I would call it somehow illusion that we are able to communicate with more people without any control. But very soon we can see from Meta and other platforms like Twitter or anything else. And even more, if we are not talking only about the platforms, we have to understand that the internet is based on the material foundation of hardware, of the fucking cables through which the internet is going. And this is controlled by the states. And they're not going to allow us to come and help too much the revolution that should be coming. And we have to think about what are our options and what are we going to do in future when not only all of us are arrested, but when all the servers, all the websites that we are using are closed down by the police, when the Balaclava police is entering all the alternative websites and the places that we are using and that our friends are using and that we somehow still are able to access. What are we going to be doing then? And this is something that I think we need to think about, to see what are the alternative channels of communication. Internet by itself is decentralized somehow, partly, and it is helping some of these things, but it is not enough. There is a hardware control of the internet, and we have to think about what to do about that.
Because as I said, in previous life, long in a galaxy far, far away, I used to be a journalist. But now, from the perspective of political organizing, I am encouraged and at the same time very frightened about the perspectives from the perspective of what we today call the citizen journalism. Okay, so people who are not devote their life to journalism, but reporting from what's going on in their lives, the things that are lied about or silenced, and that's what we use in our organizing work, being that anti-eviction movement or any other anti-capitalist activity, and I think the reason for optimism is that the whole phenomena of people reporting from grassroots actually started very badly. And some older of us remember that what we today call the Arab Spring used to be known as Facebook revolutions. That's how that was called at the time. And the reason for it was that the empire and the IT companies were actually proud how efficiently they did regime change operations, helped by actually people engaging in social networks. So it was actually very. I remember myself not thinking very highly of what we today call citizen journalism at the time, because it looked like, okay, you have some people that report some pieces of some puzzle that somebody else is articulating what it actually means, and with all their algorithms and ways to incorporate that in their narrative, we are actually defenseless and we can only serve the purpose. And the same thing happened like Egypt and in Syria, and kind of same thing happened in Ukraine, in Maidan, and then something started to change, and that exploded in Gaza. I think that like somehow it was more from that kind of people reporting from the ground, reporting what's happening around them, started to work in our favor. And that is now the result of that is this pressure from the governments on tech companies that we should talk about in this way. Not because I think that like the empire is trying to say that it's about Elon Musk or about the Telegram guy, what's his name?
Pavel Durov.
Yeah, okay. It's about them. They're trying to personify the issue, but it is actually not. I mean, I have no sympathy for Elon Musk, of course. I mean, I don't think he's Bruce Wayne, but I also don't think he's Joker. Okay, so it's not about him. It's about what is happening on these social networks that are under them, and they are pressured because of that, not because they have this or that like ideas or concepts or principles or whatever these people are. It's not about them. It's about that. I think we should just recognize that and also talk about the pressure to crush these structures that used to be very efficient in supporting regime change operations, and then somehow it happened that it, especially during the Gaza genocide, it started to work against them. So just talk another.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Pavel Durov, who was the Telegram founder who got arrested coming off a plane in France. I think that actually his arrest and detention was quite an interesting demonstration of how bad the left is on censorship, when really it could be a lot stronger, because in effect the only major voices who were willing to issue statements condemning this in the strongest possible terms, they were all on the right. And it allows charlatans like Elon Musk to frame themselves as the defenders of free speech when he's a Pentagon contractor who supports the Gaza genocide. And I think that frequently the left has been unwilling, if not totally resistant, to speaking up about censorship. When Donald Trump got banned from every social media platform under the sun after January 6th, there were, including people that I considered friends and comrades, people who actively supported this. In many cases, they themselves later got banned from them, because this is how censorship works. Yes. And I think this is rather forgotten now, but in a quite remarkable like demonstration, people power. I believe it was in like May 2022. I might be off, but like, do you remember the Disinformation Governance Board? Right. So So the Department of Homeland Security created a Disinformation's Governance Board, overseen by Nina Jankovic, who's like has a history of libeling Julian Assange and indeed the Grey Zone as like being run by Russia and all this other stuff. There was a concerted pushback by civil society voices, by on the left and right. Okay, within 3 weeks they shut it down. You know, this is the kind of thing that can be achieved if there is unified pushback. I mean, and I know several people who are content creators who are on YouTube who are complaining all the time about being throttled, but they are unwilling to upload their work to Rumble, say, because hey, they platform Andrew Tate. Well, I mean, when Pavel Durov got arrested, the head of Rumble, Chris Pavlovsky, issued like a very strong statement condemning like what happened to him in the strongest possible terms. I mean, I think in many ways, there's your answer.
Okay.
Well, I would agree. Of course, there is a problem. There is a problem with the left generally. I mean, or what is considered left. We could call them liberal left. Which is, the liberal scum, which is presenting themselves as left, which are engaged in censorship in this or that way. But of course, I mean, we should. You mentioned charlatans like Elon Musk, but you know, Durov is a charlatan also, and all of these other people that we are talking about and their platforms are also, I mean, Telegram is not a secure platform.
No.
They're not encrypting by definition. The thing that they are encrypting is bad. They're holding all the fucking conversation on the cloud, so eventually they can access it, and then somebody else also can do it. And I mean, I guess one part of the people who are having a little bit more of thinking about the whole situation are critical or skeptical of engaging in these fights because they see them as cripple fights. You know, it's I mean, Trump is a charlatan, and you know, Biden is a charlatan or whatever. Kamala Harris is a charlatan also. So it's a question if you know, engaging in these struggles is good or useful for the left in general. But I would agree that we do need to have a pushback to any kind of censorship, whoever it is. I mean, it's not a question, as you said in your case, I mean, the next people who are going to be censored are us. So if it is some kind of right-wing lunatic fascist or whatever, the next following person is some of us. So I totally agree on that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like, you're totally right that like, I mean, all of these people are charlatans, and but I mean, there is of course like a wider risk of placing like all of our faith in one organization or institution or person to rescue us. We need to rescue ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there is. I think this lack of how left became so censorious is an important issue because it is now going. I mean, contrary that then everything we remember from like our political history. Left became censorious for our reasons. Okay, that's why it is so crucial, because it is now like it's easy to be against censorship if the censorship is for the reasons you think are wrong. But what about if it's for our reasons?
Yeah, but the whole idea of you know, freedom of speech and so on is to be against censoring somebody even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah,
I mean that's like a basic idea. Yeah.
Suppose we all agree about that, but there is really a lot to unpack in that thing that the left, the liberal left, like what the identitarian left, being the flag bearer for censorship in our times. not the right wing.
Yeah.
Not the right wing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are this research regarding the positions of the people who are voting for Democrats, who are now mainly supporting the CIA and all of these things. It's really like a bizarre swap of what was happening before with the Republicans and so on. Now you have more people being skeptical of the security services and so on the right than on the liberal left, which is like a really bizarre development of the situation.
It also has like the very it's rooted in the general shift of the left. I think from my understanding, especially after 2008, after the Rainbow Coalition took power in the empire, when things started to change, we first accepting so-called responsibility to protect doctrine, which is kind of that's a left thing. That's in the name of the weak. We can do war. Never mind the censorship. We can do war. We can do genocide in order to protect the protecting classes. And now we are seeing the just like continuation of that. That it is very hard to even start a conversation of the left that since the beginning of time, those who were censoring, they said they were protecting the weak. That's always been a thing. It was never like we are censoring because we are assholes. It was always we are censoring because we are. So there's nothing new in it. Yeah. Only we, what happened to us? I mean, if we still consider that us, that's also the issue.
On a political note, I just want to go back. Few years back, obviously, I used to be part of a Macedonian political party named Levica. Mm-hmm. So when I was a member, we went on invite by Claire Daly and Mick Wallace. I went to the EU Parliament for 5 days, and it was the thing. This is again, I've not had any contact with anyone of the left in the EU, so I thought, this is the left, so it should, all of them are leftist. But when I entered there, it was completely different. The Die Linke was on one side, the Green was on the other side, Mick and Claire were on a different side. So then that actually triggered me, like, oh my God, it's not how it's portrayed to us. For like what I researched online before I went to the to the EU, to the Parliament, it was all roses and nicely put everything. But when I actually attended a meeting of the left group full on. For example, Mick and Claire were not attending because they were more going towards central left, all of them, and only the two voices of the actual left, like what we are doing, were the two of them. And after 2 days, we attended the projection of Ithaca, the movie for Džulijana Asanža. His dad was there, and amazingly, none of the left were there. We were just invited people by invite there, which is a shame for me, because only for likes on the meta, on Instagram or all those social media, they will put everything, but the actual inside work is just it's crap. They're not what they are. It's complete. How do I say it? Colored, but over-colored again. So you need to dig even more and more if you want to get to a proper. Maybe if you want to write a nice piece, you need to dig so much, and you need to, find contacts. That's how I found out about Kit. I could never find anything on him. I was like, my goodness, how do I dig about Kit Klarenberg? And then finally there was somebody putting on Twitter a comment that he's banned from social media, so he's on Substack. So that's how I went and found out. So there are still a lot of things that we don't know, and because obviously we are censored, we are put down, we cannot promote ourselves. But I still believe that we do need a good strategy to come forward. And obviously in Macedonia, politics is really bad, because every political party, even the left, as it is now, they're just wanting to gain voters. It's not about the journalism. It's not about whether they are censored or not. One thing comes on the news, or somebody says it out on the parliament stand, they use it, they twist the words, they do clips here and there, and that's not news. You need to, if you want to put something out there for people to know, journalism actually is dead now. Like it's just a corporate. For me, it's like a corporation working in an office and going on the Viber groups, or just go on any platform and just copy paste, add 1-2 sentences from yourself, and here you are. You're a Western journalist, praised by everyone else. Whether you spending so much time to dig, investigate, right, and
but you said you said it is dead. Well, let's say it's almost dead.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
I'm still alive. I'm still working.
Yeah.
The journalism as it should be.
Yeah.
It's dead because we cannot push forward because of Western media and censorship.
Yeah. What you said before we started this conversation was the key question was the worst thing that can happen, right?
Yes. But
so
still I take that as a positive thing.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm the oldest on this panel.
It doesn't show.
Yeah, it does. I know it doesn't show, but that makes me the person that has like the best remembering of the time before the internet. Okay, so yeah, there was a time when you wanted to do independent reporting and analysis, you could write it down, photocopy it on Xerox, hand it out to people around you, or send to people you know by mail. I mean mail, post office.
Yes.
Okay. So and that was like the Stone Age, and now there is I don't think it's too paranoid. There is a possibility that the power would come to conclusion that the only way to stop the positives we were talking about is to shut the infrastructure down in some way, or to censor it in a way that it can become possible. So something like going back to the time when we were depending on Xerox machine to talk to that. So I don't know what are the thoughts. I mean, what are the perspectives? Because I think like this pressure on these, I completely agree, assholes like companies like X and Telegram and TikTok are not in itself interesting because of these corporations, but because of what the empire is afraid of, and they are afraid of us. Yeah. Okay, they're, in my opinion, mostly afraid of how they couldn't control the narrative on Gaza. Yeah. That's like maybe, but somewhere probably close to that. So, and the when empire strikes back, that can be very bad. Yeah. I mean, bad things already happen to individual people, to the reporters, but can go. I mean, things are already going worse from your case to Richard Medhurst to the. It's already going tougher and tougher for individual people, and it's that there is a universe where it's going tougher to, like all of us, just shut down the infrastructure. This is going against us. Yeah. The empire said. So what are the thoughts?
I mean, I do think that there is something to be said for rediscovering like classic methods of communication and also like campaigning and stuff. So I mean, if you look at like what happened in the most recent UK general election, a shocking amount of independent candidates who stood on explicit Palestine solidarity platforms got elected to Parliament. Many others came within a few votes shy of doing it. As you know, having studied UK politics, this never happens. In most cases, they had zero money. They had like zero social media strategy. You know, we hear a lot about how effective this is at winning elections. They just went knocking on doors. in their respective constituencies. That's not something, I mean, save for like house arrest, of course, like the empire can really deal with. I think they are very stuck in, I mean, the internet was, of course, created by the US intelligence community as a weapon, right? And it remains so to this day, with some notable positives. But the fact of the matter is that we have been shifted onto a playing field that they have created. Right, so like they're dictating the terms of battle, and we actually have the opportunity to change them rather than just doing what they themselves are doing, which is seeking to use social media to manipulate and disseminate their narrative. Well, why don't we look at other alternative means of doing this?
And but I have to say something. I mean, the situation of Palestine, and this is something we talked earlier in some of our shows. It's very extreme. You have to be a psychopath to support Israel.
Yeah,
you know,
there's a lot of them around.
There is a lot of them around, but you have to be a psychopath really to say, it's okay, just killing thousands and thousands of kids and so on. And this is really an extreme situation. We have a problem with the general media and internet media and everything else about all other issues. I mean, if you look at the question of a war between NATO and Russia in Ukraine, it is much harder question. You have to be much more politically savvy to understand what is going on. You can be very easily, taken to the position, okay, we are supporting the smaller country which is attacked by the larger country and so on and so on. I mean, in this situation, the Palestine thing, I don't think is representative because it is so extreme. It's so extremely horrifying that you really have to be really sick to not see what's happening and so on. But I think it's very important, and this goes again to all of you who are much more professional journalists than to me, more as a kind of a question. When you're talking about real journalism or the things that the journalists should be doing, I'm always wondering, and this is somehow linked to what Ivan was talking about when he was talking about the Arab Spring and the fact that some of the elements of the citizen journalism were used by the system to create its own narrative.
All of it, not some.
All of it, yeah.
It was contextualized.
Exactly. And I mean, if we look, Assange was writing about so-called scientific journalism. I don't know if you had the chance of reading some of his texts on this point. And I think this is really somehow a problematic position. It is... in a philosophical terms, it's a positivist approach to journalism, which means like, okay, we are journalists, we want to convey the truth. This is what is happening. We want public to read the truth. We will, in a situation, if we are like WikiLeaks or something like that, we are going to bring as many data as possible so that people themselves can make, their own assessment of what is happening. And this, for me, it is positive in some way. Of course, we can see, for example, in WikiLeaks cables, we can see what did all the Serbian politicians do with the American embassy. It's very useful in that, but it's a question, how do you interpret the things? And this is why I'm linking it to what Ivan said. I think that this kind of approach, and this is what I wanted to ask you guys who are like journalists, I do think that we need to give a segment of interpretations ourselves. We cannot just leave the data themselves because the data are not saying enough. Even in extreme situations like Palestine, I mean, we can look at the fucking titles on BBC. Somebody is being killed. Kid was killed by somebody.
Somebody walks into a bullet.
It doesn't, and this is true. If you are looking from this positive side, somebody was killed, and they're not lying. But the point is that it's not only that we need to present the fact, we need to present the fucking context so that this can be understood. And this is then, this means that we as people who are creating some kind of media production, we need to take sides. We cannot be objective in this kind of a positivist idea. We are just giving the data. No, we are not just giving the data. We are giving the fucking context in which you need to understand really what is happening, because the data themselves can be in this or that way presented, understood in this or that way. And I feel that if we are a progressive journalists or people who are engaged in some kind of progressive journalism, we do need to give a context also to that. So that's just more of a question than this is my my position, but I would like to hear you all if you have some thoughts on that, because I very often hear from friends coming from the similar backgrounds and positions, just ending up on this idea of just us being objective. I don't think that's the solution. We have to take side. We have to say we are on the side of the working class, we are on the side of the oppressed, we are on the side of the people who are pushed down, and we are supporting them. And this is the data which we are presenting in that context. You know,
but that's the truth side.
Yeah, that's the truth. Exactly.
Truth journalism. So this is the problem also, like in Macedonia. They're all in fight for a better title. Whether you open the news, it's nothing. It's just completely nothing. Or you see all the platforms doing different titles, bigger letters, bolder letters. When you open inside, it's just either copied somewhere from somebody or just a link. No, nothing journalist is there in those things. So that's, I think, where we need to come forward and be a little bit more aggressive. But maybe strategically talking, we need to maybe organize a lot more, gathers around, and maybe use some of these channels in our advantage to stay in touch. It doesn't need to be anything related like in journalism, but still to stay in touch. And you know how the political parties in Macedonia they're doing? For example, one news is coming, they put it up on Facebook, one message on Telegram. Please share it all. So that's one of the things that we can implement also. A lot of journalism, make one small platform, grow it up at some point, and just then, aggressively share it, do it. Obviously, there need to be a lot of money to do that because but what's life without, getting pushed back and then back forward. But as long as we don't stop. So, and again, what's the worst that can happen? So.
Exactly.
Well,
I mean, like, yeah, I just think more generally there is like a wider issue like across independent media that a large number of muckrakers, like, they don't do what they were doing before, and often that's because they've gotten involved with some kind of institution, whether it's a political party, whether it's like a particular outlet that takes a particular line. So I mean, I know like several, I won't name and shame because it's pointless, but like I know several people who I kind of grew up reading and looked up to as these like real like crusading forces for truth, who very, very clearly now are not doing this anymore, and that is because they have political or commercial considerations behind what they can and can't say. What's been quite remarkable recently is that a large number of, like The Intercept, that was set up with like much fanfare over a decade ago, and it was going to be this new force in investigative journalism, and like fast forward to today, and they're publishing op-eds about how Kamala Harris is smashing the glass ceiling, and they also have a history of miraculously getting all of their sources jailed. Like a large number of journalists have quit The Intercept and have set up Substacks for themselves, or have set up some kind of independent like newsletter, and they are actually writing about all sorts of things that they weren't able to do before. Again, I think there needs to be a decentralized approach to this, and if there is a particular political or economic or professional concern which is preventing you from telling the truth, the actual truth, not just the objective truth, ask yourself why, and ask yourself whether you are comfortable looking at yourself in the mirror doing this. And I mean, we've seen a number, not nearly enough, but a number of mainstream journalists either blow the whistle or resign from positions at the BBC for their consistent whitewashing of the Gaza genocide. I always make the point that, well, I mean, we are not the Palestinians. Like, I mean, no matter how bad our lives may be in like certain regards, they are suffering a 21st century Holocaust, and no one is coming to the rescue. So, to the extent that we can do anything to help them, we have. We must do.
Yeah, but I mean, your journalism is
brilliant.
I mean, apart from being brilliant, it is also what Ratibor just explained as being on the right side and factual at the same time. And because I also I don't know how much that's an issue on the West or in Macedonia or whatever, but I actually lost some friends over this discussion that Ratibor started. That some people who take them as great journalists, but being in this objectivity, objective in that way that to be objective and factual means you don't take sides. You just lay down the facts and let the people make their own conclusions, even though you know that when it's in a context that's actually implicitly says something to the people that will take them for the one side or another. And I, as I said, literally lost some friends who were offended by me saying that they are only posing as objective, but they are actually taking the side within the context. So I don't know how that's like really an issue here in a liberal side of journalism, in the, let's say, pro-Western, pro-EU supportive side of journalism, that understanding of being objective or neutral or factual in that way. And so how much, when you say how people can look at themselves in the mirror, how much that's also the way for people to look at themselves in the mirror when they are serving the empire, to say, well, I was factual. Like I was just not taking sides. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, of course. I mean, probably we have some of the friends who are psychologists here who would be better in answering that question. I mean, but
we have peers. So.
Yeah, we have peers that you have. I mean, but it's a good thing that you mentioned our pro-Western media here in Serbia, which are somehow a good example of that. You know, if we have somebody from this media reporting on the bad working condition in some of the Chinese companies in Serbia, everything they say is true. Of course, every company is a capitalist company. Every company is a capitalist company. They want to extract the profits from the workers, be it a Chinese company, a British company, or whatever company. And then when you find a situation in which a Chinese company is terrorizing some workers, this is all true. They are terrorizing these workers. They are, destroying the nature or whatever they're doing in that process. But the fact is that the majority of the companies in Serbia are from the EU and United States. And if you are focusing on a company which is from China, which is like a really small percentage of the economy of this country, and you are focusing on something which is true, the fact that this company is doing something bad, you're de facto taking the side of the EU capital, of American capital, and so on, while still talking the truth about the fact of what is happening in this Chinese company. And this is why I think it's very important what our friend here said. I mean, the truth is to give the context to this data. It's not, the truth is not just to give the data. The truth is when you give the whole fucking context so that everybody can understand what is really happening, because everything is being perceived in the certain context, and this context is a state capitalism and imperialism and so on and so on. So the people are not living in some kind of vacuum in which they are just presented with the data and they have a free mind through which they can go through this data and then come to some great conclusion, but they're under constant influence of the mainstream media, of the state ideological apparatuses of the state, of the political parties, of the church, of school system and so on and so on. So they're not in the vacuum and able to understand everything clearly just by themselves, in a sense of just sitting and browsing through the data, but it is the job of journalists or progressive journalists to give the fucking whole context in which they can understand and interpret the data.
There used to be one great, very factual journalist who was like never lied, never wrote anything incorrect, and was also very much taking sides, and his name was Karl Marx.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a great journalist.
I think, is that time for Q&A? Or
I think it's time for Q&A because it's already 5 minutes to 7 and the things should be starting soon.
Throwing it to the floor. Anyone?
Yep.
Go.
questions and some kind of opinion. Like first, so maybe I'll start with where is Alex Rubinstein because I think it was like announced that he's gonna be there for like podcast against podcast. That's one question. The other one is like, did it ever occur to you that the possible perspective of freedom of internet is for it to be overtaken by the power, either through mainstream media to the fake alternative media sources, all of them under one control. Like, we had the internet for 20 years already. It's like a little bit like too long time for this, state powers not to control it already. So it's like, in a way, I think it's like maybe that is a possible scenario that maybe you didn't consider. And the third opinion I wanted to maybe suggest, which is like more close to Ratibor's last conclusion, is like, in a scientific sense, there is no objective truth. You were like mentioning objective truth, which is like whoever studies anything in science, like it's a unattainable goal. So we're like heading there, but never getting there, because like there is lots of truths, and there's like different truths for everyone. Like everyone they have their own truth. So it's like talking about what is truth, what is not, what is objective truth. It's a bit. I didn't expect this to happen here. Because in a sense, if we talk from this perspective, like objective truth is like, in a way, statistical point. Like if we compare each other's truth, then it's like whose truth is outnumbered, that's gonna become the ending truth. So that's a kind of opinion, but I had two questions, so maybe someone whoever wants can reply.
Oh yeah, I mean, Alex Rubinstein was meant to attend, but he
Personal.
yeah, for personal reasons couldn't make it. But
Yeah, and I think that the question about internet being overtaken by imperial trolls, okay? That's if that was like like the empire trolling us through what we think is free flow information, right? Yeah. Well, I think that is where we started from during the Arab Spring. That was the setup. That's what already happened. That there were a couple of these big events with the role of the internet in these like social events was the way you explain. So that's what already is a setup. I mean, internet is not free. It was. I mean, as I said, I think before, Egypt and Syria and Ukraine were actually you had that not only the empire organizing against us, but also misused these people's efforts for their means. So everything was incorporated into the regime change operation in the interest of the empire. What I think is now changed, and that's where Ratibor and myself are not completely agree, that now changed in Gaza. That is what that somehow, like what we say, this free internet, like people engaging in a horizontal level, that was once upon a time the dream what internet would become, when we were only listening that something like remember back in the 90s when we were like it was a couple of years before I first started to surf on internet a couple of years before that, I was only listening from the people who traveled abroad and used it, listening about that great thing and expecting it for a couple of years. And at the time, that was the dream, like it's horizontal free flow of information. And it wasn't like that, of course. In all this controlled free flow of information, controlled situations in Arab Spring and later, but somehow it came out to be in Gaza, and maybe it's as Ratibor said. I mean, I just don't know. Maybe that's because it's an extreme situation and won't it's not the precedent like what's going to happen in the future. I don't know about that, but I think that's like what you said. Are we afraid of that? I think that was the thing from the get-go, and now there is a window that can actually change that. Somehow, like this social processes actually beat the empire for a moment, and then we'll see what happens. I believe probably that they are. I don't know. From how they act, I don't think that they think that that's just a fluke. That's just a reaction on extreme situation and won't be precedent for the future, because to me it looks like that the reaction to shut parts of the infrastructure down for that thing never to happen again, I think it's very tough and like very panicky from the side of the established, banning TikTok in the United States. Busting this guy for the Telegram boss and all the other pressures. I think that they are taking it very seriously, and let's see what happens from there.
I like to add something also.
So
I don't think that the Western power or the media, they thought that they thought that the people will stand. Well, the people will get information from Gaza, for example. So they thought it's going to be the same war like Russia and Ukraine. I believe that they thought the Western powers thought that this conflict in Gaza or whatever they want to use small words. I believe that they thought it won't get so much attention, and they were wrong, because this was portrayed because obviously we have so much on reach on the internet, and they did not calculate that risk. They thought it's going to be the same as Russia-Ukraine war. So that's where I think that's actually a stupid and a good mistake for us, because this is how we come above, like all of us who try to do the truth, and you meant to portray the truth. And also you mentioned which true is the truth. If you are a journalist, independent, who are not politically involved or commercially involved, you don't fight for whose truth is truer. You understand? I've looked up on kids a lot of investigative pieces, and I actually felt that what he portrayed about Macedonia nobody in Macedonia has done it. I have not even had information about that. So you understand? So I don't feel like Kid is a competition, but I feel like he's a comrade. Like, I can learn from him. I can say to the Macedonians, hello, people, we do not have an access to these documents, but see, this person has connections here, there. I never even know that with my friend, we are here and we were discussing one of his pieces, and we did not have a clue that MI6 had so much. It was like a silent bidder, you understand? So for me, as a independent journalist, investigative journalist, I don't believe that whoever wants to say the truth as a journalist won't see each other or the rest, the true ones, as competition. it should be like one force going forward. I know we are in, psychology of the human is like who's going to be higher and higher, but I don't believe a true journalist is that. All the rest are doing it. Whoever is going to print bigger, bolder, use fancy words, get better clicks. That's what is happening now, and I believe we are on the other side. So we do not fight who is going to do more truth, but we actually want to just, this is the truth. Read, research, think about it. Don't just read what they're giving you to read. Don't let them plant stuff in your head. You have your own brain. You think about it, and then you take a side as a person who reads. With all the facts laid out, you take a side. So I don't believe that, so far I hope none of us feel that we are in a competition. So I hope whoever else is doing the true journalism is not going on that road. Again, if he's doing that, I believe he's not a true journalist. I mean, that's for me one is like what's supposed to be as a journalist. Just do your job portraying the truth. No sides, facts, and facts needs to be backed up also. Not just I spoke to Kit and he said like this. You understand? So not a lot of things, as I said, not a lot of things are available to us. For me in Macedonia, when I started digging out some things now, I'm like, okay, hello. So you need to have to merge with people to do a good piece, to give it out there, and then the rest is up to the people to the readers. If they want to take sides, it's okay. If they want to take it as a piece who is a rejuvenating piece for them and stuff like that, then yeah, okay. If not, then I guess we failed. That's the worst that can happen, I believe.
That is the worst that can happen. Sorry, no,
No, please. I just wanted to comment on your opinion, not on your questions. I mean, I do not believe that there is many truths. I don't agree with this totally. I think this is this kind of postmodern relativism, which is really not true. I agree with Hegel and with the idea that the truth is whole, which means that what you're calling, statistical truth or whatever, that's just one part of the truth. To have a truth, you need to have the whole. And this includes the statistical or the facts, as our friend was talking about, but also the context in which these facts need to be understood. And then we have the truth, which is one, which is not, there is imperialist countries fighting the war. There are genocidal maniacs killing the kids in Israel or in Palestine and so on and so on. This is the truth. There is no other truths about that. It's just the question that we have data and we have a context in which we need to understand this data, and then we can get the truth. But sorry, this is more of some kind of quasi-philosophical debate.
It's not quasi, I agree with you.
But
there can only be one true.
But sorry, yeah. So please, other questions or you need?
Nothing, I'm all done. I think that's a wrap.
Thanks everybody
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening.